Hello fellow gamers. I never wanted to be one of those channels with a talking avatar, but here I am, only a couple of videos in, and already breaking that promise to myself. Anyway, I made a mini multi-video review, because that's never been done before by any other bigger, better channels. So, here are 3, well technically 4, indie games on the Switch that I really enjoyed, but I couldn't stretch out the scripts into solo videos, so I'm going to stitch them together in a human centipedification of a YouTube video, so I hope you all enjoy. I think a lot of us, including myself, can find the start of the year to be a sort of depressing time. I don't know if it's just the cold weather, or if it's the inescapable feeling that you've wasted another year of your life, and that life's just passing you by, and how you dreamed your life would turn out is nothing more than an unobtainable fantasy, and you'll continue to be a wage slave for mega corporations for the rest of your life, making these shitty little videos in your corner of the internet, hoping to break out of that system and to have some sort of creative job, even though the chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. And, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm spiraling. Well, let's shift gears. New year, new possibilities. Let's try to find something to cheer me up, something to boost my spirits. Let's search for a happy game and see what we'll find. Oh, this one looks promising. Happy Game is a psychedelic horror point-and-click puzzle game released on PC and the Switch in 2021. The game was made by Amanita Design, a Czech studio making small point-and-click adventure puzzle games. Their most popular game being Machinarium, an award-winning puzzle game with stunning art. Amanita seems to be a one-trick pony, only making pretty puzzle games, but oh boy do I love that one trick. Happy Game is not a mechanically deep game in the least. The left stick moves the cursor, which you use to pick up and interact with items in the environment. Then you control this good little noodle with the right stick. And there you go, you're ready to navigate this beautiful nightmare. The game is also fairly easy, especially compared to other point-and-click games. There's no moon logic here folks, just straightforward puzzles. The puzzles in the game are relatively easy. There is no inventory system, unless you count handing the boy an item, so the solutions to the puzzles are usually in the general area of the puzzle, so you don't have to worry about being locked out of a solution because you forgot to grab an item at the beginning of the game and you're an hour in already. But on the flip side, that means you can also just grab an item and slam it against everything in the environment until the puzzle is solved. So, if difficulty or complex gameplay isn't the draw of this game, then what is? Well, the answer is obvious if you've been looking at the gameplay I've been showing you. It's the beautifully grotesque art. The game is simply just a treat for the eyes. I literally have nothing bad to say about this art or art direction whatsoever. The art goes from a kinda creepy cute to horrors beyond your imagination. I don't want to spoil too much of the game's art, so I'm going to try to wrap this up as quickly as possible. I personally did not find the narrative of this game very amazing. I didn't find it bad by any means, but I have played Limbo and other indie games of that era. A big-headed child navigates a scary world as an allegory for a loss of innocence. Not bad by any means, but I've seen it done to death. There might be deep symbolism and meaning into each monster of the game. There might be some superfan frothing at the mouth to explain to me why the section with the smiley mask is all about how the main character needs to put on a smile and suppress his real feelings and trauma, but I'm not gonna do that here. I'll leave that to some five-headed big-brain nerd to do the analysis. Instead, I'll just sit around, talk about how cool I think the art is, and keep my brain smooth and beautiful. I've had my eye on Happy Game since it was announced in December of 2020. I saw the trailer in a Nintendo Indie Direct, and was immediately won over by the look and vibe of the game. The game came out with little fanfare in October of 2021, and that's it. No one's really talked about this game since its announcement, and it kinda makes me a little sad. I found this to be a great little game that no one's really given the time of day. While writing and researching this script, I decided just to look on YouTube to see what I can find about this game, and I was honestly a little disappointed. The only 2 real videos I saw anyone make on this game was a Markiplier Let's Play and an ending explain video. Look, I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of Marky Mark in any way. I was just hoping that more people out there found this odd little gem as charming as I did, that's all. Do you like old school platformers? Do you wish Sega made a 3D Sonic game on the Saturn that felt like those sweet 2D games of old? Do you latch on to imagery and media from the 90s because that was the last time you felt anything close to happiness? Well, do I have some good news for you. I found the most 90s 3D platformer on the Switch. Rise Star 2, The Electric Boogaloo. Just kidding. It's Tori 3D and Tori 2. The Tori games are made by Ciactro, an indie dev who makes really cool low-poly games. A large chunk of their games are low-poly 3D platformers, but they've made a few other odd game jam games along the way, including a horror ramen game and an on-rails FPS emulating the look of GoldenEye and Perfect Dark on the N64. They have another 3D platformer on the Switch, MacBat 64, which looks like a collectathon platformer in the vein of Super Mario 64 or Donkey Kong 64. I haven't gotten the chance to play MacBat yet, but when I get the chance I am definitely going to give it a look. But back to Tori. The Tori games are both small and very similar, so I'll be talking about them interchangeably, and I'm bringing up the differences when it comes up. The Tori games follow Tori, obviously, the coolest bird in town. I mean, look at him in those sunglasses. Tori definitely fucks. The story follows Tori trying to get his ice cream back that was stolen by a Reaper. So Tori chases them through cityscapes, ice mountains, fire ruins, and even space. The story obviously isn't Shakespeare, but it gives you an excuse to run from one point of the level to the other. As you can see, the game has a nice low-poly aesthetic with bright, vibrant colors. The levels look beautiful, and honestly make you feel like you're playing through a Vaporwave album cover most of the time, and I absolutely love it. Hit me in that 90s nostalgia, baby! I love how all of these levels look. Whether it's the bright pinks of the starting level, the dark purples and bright billboards of New Osaka, the vibrant colors on the beach, they all look absolutely stunning. These games just have immaculate vibes. I rarely talk about music when I'm discussing games. That's because my knowledge of music doesn't go much further than, this sounds good, I like it. But the music in Tori slaps. It's vibes for days. Look, even Tori head bobs to these tracks, and with those cool sunglasses, he obviously knows what's up. Tori even has different outfits depending on the level. Most levels will have base Tori with his sunglasses and backpack, but ice levels will have him wearing earmuffs and a scarf, he'll wear a helmet in space, or a legally distinct Indiana Jones hat in the ruins. Just look at him, he's so heckin' cute! Well, the game looks amazing, but how does it actually play? The gameplay of Tori is really straightforward. Run through the level, pick up the stars that you find along the way, and make it to the end as fast as you can. The game will grade you on how long it takes for you to complete a level, and whether or not you collected all the stars. Speed is the name of the game if you want a good grade. Just like another famous anthropomorphic platforming icon. Y'all know who it is, say it with me now. Sparkster. The controls are pretty basic. You control Tori with the left stick, the camera with the right, you got a jump button, and you can make Tori sprint by pressing Y or the right trigger. And bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a pretty straightforward platformer. Tori controls really smoothly, the jump feels nice, and there's even a little double jump. The first level of each game has these tutorial billboards at the beginning, and I find them kinda cute. It might just be me, but I find these little diegetic touches really nice. The levels have hazards and enemies dotted throughout, and Tori's a fragile little guy who goes down in a single hit. Don't worry, death is swift, and there's no load time after death, so you can jump right back into the action if you take a hit. There are checkpoints dotted throughout a level, so you don't lose too much progress. And Tori 2 adds some extra spice. There's these little boost gates that allow you to dash through enemies, and Tori 2 ends with a boss fight with a Reaper, which kinda surprised me due to both games' complete lack of combat. The boss can be kind of annoying due to how fragile Tori is, but it's not that difficult and won't take you very long to take him down. Both of the games only have 9 levels each, but all of those levels are great. The only levels I didn't like were the ones where you had to jump from moving car to moving car. I found it hard to keep up the pace and momentum that most of the levels ask for, but I could just be bad at video games. Both of the Tori games are pretty much all killer, no filler. Simple enough for anyone to pick up and play, but with enough added challenge through that grading system and the need to collect everything to add that extra spice if you really want it. Both Tori games have received content updates since their release. Tori 3D got 4 remix levels, which are extra challenging levels. I enjoyed them all, except the level where the giant star is chasing you through slippery ice platforms. That level in particular can go fuck itself. But the rest were really good. Tori 2 added 3 bonus levels that are more of an open collectathon style. I had a lot of fun with them. In that first level, you get a little plane. Both of the games have unlockable characters. I only managed to unlock Macbat, who can jump infinitely and break the game. I think the other character is the Ramen from the Game Jam horror game they developed. I was happy to revisit these games and see that there was new levels added. I'm always happy to see post-launch support for a game, especially new content. Now that I've finished filleting these games, let's get to the one negative point I have about them. They are both extremely short. It only took me an hour to beat each one of these games, and that includes the post-launch additional levels. But here's the kicker. Each one of these games is only $1 a piece. I find that a great price for a great little experience. Both of the games together is still less than half the price of a Starbucks coffee. I'm not someone that values a game in relation to its price most of the time, but sometimes a deal is just too good. I guess what I'm trying to say is,
I'd buy that for $1.
So if you liked what you saw, you don't really have an excuse not to pick up this charming little platformer. Okay, picture this. A dark, dystopian cyberpunk world filled with drug deals, violence around every corner, secret government programs. I know it sounds like I just described Los Angeles, but what I'm talking about is a neon-tinged neo-noir that hit PC and consoles back in 2019, Katana Zero. Katana Zero is published by Devolver Digital and developed by Akisoft. The game did get a decent amount of press at the time of its release. I remember some press coverage from major outlets. I also remember Pat and Wooly, formerly of the Super Best Friends, talking about it at the time. But since the game's launch, I haven't really heard much about it, and honestly, that's probably for a good reason. But I'm still going to talk about it anyways, even though nobody asked me to. Katana Zero is a 2D pixel art action platformer where all the enemies die in one hit, but so do you. You run, dodge, and slice your way through the levels. The player has a dodge roll. They can also pick up objects in the environment so they can yeet them at the enemy to kill them from a distance. You can deflect bullets with your katana, and to round all that out is the ability to slow time, which helps greatly with dodging gunfire and deflecting bullets. There's only one instance where slowing down time is absolutely necessary, and that's in the tutorial. After that, you don't need to slow down time to beat the game at all, but it greatly helps your odds. The combat feels great. Attacks feel like they actually have some weight behind it, due to a little frame stop that happens whenever you kill an enemy. And when you kill said enemy, their blood does spray across the environment. I'll say the effect looks great. It looks even better if you knock an enemy into the air and leaves a nice arch. Mwah! It's beautiful. The enemies range from big bruisers who go down really easily, skinny dudes with knives who can clash blades with yours, leaving both of you stunned, and leaves you open for a second for one of his buddies to finish you off. There are gunmen with pistols and rifles, which are easily taken out by deflecting their bullets back at them. There are shotgunners who you can't deflect the bullets of because you can only deflect one projectile at a time, and the rest of the pellets will hit you in the face. So you gotta roll through their attacks and then take them out. Then the last basic enemy is a riot shield cop, who you might have guessed is carrying a gun. And a shield too. You roll behind him to take him out easily. He'll block your attacks and projectiles. Unless you deflect a bullet back at him, then he'll drop his guard for a second or two. There are 2 bosses in the game, and 1 secret boss. The final boss and the secret boss are my personal favorites. The final boss feels almost like a Virgil fight, a duel between equals, just like Virgil and Dante from Devil May Cry. The secret boss goes from an anime battle to a fight against a Cronenberg monster in a Lovecraft hell world. I often return to this game every once in a while just to get a hit of its sweet, sweet combat, but how does the rest of the game hold up? I love the look of this game. It's dark and gritty at times, and neon and bright at others. I find the sprite art absolutely stunning. There's also a lot of expressive detail in the animations of these sprites. It's all just so good. The music is also great. As I've mentioned before, I'm a bit monkey-brained when it comes to music, but this shit slaps. The synth-heavy instrumentals really help the tone and setting of the game. The soundtrack is so good that I'm listening to it while I write this script. Next, let's hit the story. The game follows Zero, a man in his bathrobe, wielding a katana, as he is sent out on assassination missions by his psychiatrist. His psychiatrist pumping him full of a mysterious drug that alters his perception of time, and the people he's killing seems to link back to a secret military plot in drug trafficking. The game has a really neat little dialogue system. When you're having a conversation with a character, while they're speaking, you get a red dialogue option that allows you to interrupt them. Choosing options like that will often irritate the character you're talking to, and can have major effects later on in the game. Once a character has finished their line, you get a white dialogue option to respond. Some dialogue options have bigger effects on the stories than others, And if you want a detailed look at that, find yourself a guide online. I ain't gonna help you with any of that. All the dialogue is on a timer, so make sure you pick fast. I rather enjoy the narrative and the dialogue system in this game. With this dialogue system and the few choices you get to make throughout the game does branch out a little bit, but not as much as you think it does. But I don't really find that as a bad thing. The game feels a lot bigger than it actually is, but I feel it really helps a title like this stand out. I think they use Zero's time powers in some interesting ways in the story. One of my favorite scenes is the one where Zero gets interrogated. Zero uses his time powers to learn about his capturer and to turn the tables on him. It's nothing really groundbreaking, but it's executed well. The story has a lot of style and wit to how it's delivered. The game does have a sense of humor to it. It gave me a few chuckles, but none of it really gets in the way. The humor is mostly optional. If you wait around in some levels, NPCs will chat amongst themselves and have some jokes, and there'll be some things in the background that might make you giggle. But if the humor does annoy you, you don't have to pay attention to any of it. You can just run into the room while they're chatting and slice them to bits. The jokes can be hit or miss, but I never groaned or cringed at any, unlike comedic writing in other video games. Final thoughts on the story though, I did like the friendship that Zero develops with the neighbor girl. It felt kinda cute, but mildly eyebrow raising when you see a grown man spend so much time with a young girl, but hey, that's what you get when you let anime fans write stories, right? Now, let's get to my one problem with Katana Zero, and likely the reason there hasn't been much buzz about it since its launch. The game ends in a massive cliffhanger about a character being kidnapped. Zero runs off to save them, you reach where they're being held, and you get a message that says come back in a couple months. The game was released in April of 2019, and I'm currently writing this in February of 2022. I've never been great at math, but I do think that's slightly more than a couple months. So, what happened to the end of the game? The developer did promise free DLC post-launch, but where is this free DLC? Well, luckily, the developer says he's working on it as I'm making this video. On the developer's blog, he states that the DLC will be 6 times larger than intended and be about half the size of the base game. But that update was made back in March of 2021 with no update since. This is not a complaint about the game or a slight against the developer. I understand that game development is extremely hard and the world being on fire for the last 2 years doesn't help that situation. So whenever that DLC comes out, I will definitely play it, and I'm greatly looking forward to it. Is there a chance that this last paragraph will be extremely dated in a few months to a year? Of course. Do I care? Nah, not really. I just really wanted to talk about a game that I really like, even if it is technically unfinished. I just wanted to correct a couple mistakes I made. Mostly when I said that Katana Zero didn't really have a lot of people talking about it, that's pretty incorrect. The game has a decent sized modding community and a decent speedrunning community as well. I didn't really realize that when I wrote this video, just wanted to fix that. And my second note isn't really a mistake, I just wanted to say the Tori dev that made the tasty ramen horror game, if you could make a full version of that, I would love that. That game is beautiful and wonderful. Alright, back to the video. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. I really appreciate it. I've got a couple of fun ideas for future videos, so if you enjoyed this one, hit subscribe, drop a like, do all the typical YouTube stuff. And hey, if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll speedrun Katana Zero on Twitch or something. And maybe if I promise things like that, I'll finally break into the big leagues. And all jokes aside, thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.